Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream on Thursday with a little bit of a difference. So anyone that's watched this channel for a while will know that every single season I say I should get more people on the streams, and every single year I'm way too lazy to even bother thinking about it. But I took my opportunity to. I was basically like a vulture. I saw that Black Box wasn't happening, and I was straight on the phone to Az. Do you want to come and talk FPL tonight? And he said yes. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks. I was I kind of had my fix with Scoutcast a little bit, but I've got used to doing 2 in a week now, so it's nice to be doing another one.
Yeah, keeping a bit. I'm basically keeping you warm for Mark for next week, in the hope that in the hope that Mark gets his internet fixed. So this isn't going to be another Black Box
Nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, I've got internet troubles, but having your cable cut, I mean, that would very much infuriate me, which I'm sure it's doing.
A rival broadband provider as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the best way to get business. It's a weird way of trying to get business. You think you just want to offer a better service, not just cut the service completely. But there we go. I don't know how easy is it to fix broadband. Do you just tie the cable back together? Do you have to lay a whole new cable? I don't know. Anyway, this is what this stream will be like. We'll just be chatting about broadband probably. That's what I usually do, to be honest. I usually like to moan about broadband. So I'm gonna do the same where we answer questions from the chat, but I probably won't be answering. I probably won't be focused as much on it as I maybe usually am. I also don't usually have. Just let me know basically if the sound's okay, and we'll get into it. I've got my team up. I've got Az's team up. So all the usual stuff. Let's just jump in for the first thing that's going to be asked a million times. Mo Salah. We both own him. We still don't officially know he's out this weekend, but he's going to be out this weekend, right? I think we know that, even if it's official. What are you doing with him? Because I'm kind of wavering a bit now. I wasn't going to get rid, but I must admit I'm very tempted now.
I'm definitely getting rid. He's going tomorrow. I think the issues are. I mean, he's still in Egypt, which isn't great.
It's difficult to play when you're in Egypt.
Well, exactly. That is general rule, isn't it? When you're in a different country, it's hard to play. But he's in another country. We don't know how bad his symptoms are, so he might be really suffering with this thing. I mean, it is an illness that's going around killing people. And okay, he's fit and healthy, but we don't know how bad he's got it. I wonder, after having 2 weeks of not training, if Klopp would put him straight into the match against Brighton anyway. So I think in all likelihood he's going to miss. Will definitely miss the weekend, miss the Champions League, and miss the Brighton game. So you're looking at a 12 million midfielder missing 2 games when it's come at a time when there's just so many good picks. With Vardy and De Bruyne and Fernandes. I don't really want to be hanging on to someone like that that's that expensive, and I want to be looking onto pastures newer and greener.
So I'm kind of coming around to the same thinking. The biggest turning point is the fact that, like you said, he's not back yet. He's still away. I keep seeing people talk about this is what's going to happen. This is the protocol. No one knows. Liverpool haven't said a word. No one actually knows officially. Will he be able to come straight back as soon as he tests negative, and will he just be able to start training again? Maybe he will. It seems to be the case, but we don't know when that's going to be yet. And like you say, he's had like a whole, not a break as such, but you know what I mean. He hasn't been playing and training or whatever. So for me, I almost see it now as you're basically betting that he doesn't play that Brighton game. That's the way I'm looking at it. And if he doesn't, I think we'll kind of be up on the deal, because the game after that's Wolves anyway. So I think he's a bad pick for Wolves, but I feel like I can get away without him for that game. So basically, if I get rid of now, I need a plan to get him back for game week 12, because that's Fulham.
It's the game week 12 game against Fulham. Yeah, the Fulham away. I mean, some people are moving Salah to Man.
Oh, he's frozen. I don't know if you can hear me. You're frozen on my screen. I don't know if anyone can hear me. Maybe, I don't know what's going on, actually. It's looking a bit weird, because on my screen, everything looks okay. But you are definitely frozen. What a nightmare. Hang on. Let's see. Let me see if I can get you back. Hang on. Oh, he said everything has died. I'll get him back in. Oh my god. The internet's okay today. The internet is okay. Hang on. Let me see if I can get him back in. Oh my god. Yeah, I think my end's okay. I'll see if he can rejoin the Zoom call. I mean, usually my end is not okay. I don't know if it is necessarily the broadband. It might be. It might be. Hang on, let me get him back in. What an absolute nightmare. All by myself. Who cares about him? What do I do with Salah? He's going to tell you. What's your team looking like? Oh yeah, I'll get my team up in a minute. Hang on a sec. If this doesn't work, oh hang on, let's see if he's back now. I think he's coming back. Can you hear me?
I'm back. Can you? Yeah.
It might be my end because at the end of the day, I don't have the most reliable. I don't have the most reliable internet. Let's be honest, but everything looks okay in my end. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. If it keeps happening, we'll just bail.
It's never done that before. It just Zoom just went off and went into like connecting mode and came back. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway,
I'm here.
What were we chatting about? We were chatting about Mo Salah. And about the Wolves game and the fact you want to get him back for game week 12. So your team is up on the screen right now. No, sorry, that's my team. Now your team's up on the screen. So how many transfers have you got? 1 or 2?
I've got 1, which is problematic. But I mean, I've been looking at ways of getting in De Bruyne and Fernandes anyway, and this does actually make it quite a bit easier because I can get one of those 2 in for Salah and then look to move Son over to the other one next week. So before that, it probably would have been a jiggery pokery of Kane going out and so on and all of that stuff. So I won't say a blessing in disguise for my team because I don't really want to lose Salah because he's been so good and so consistent in quite a tough season. But it does kind of help me get more to where I was supposed to want. What I was saying before I went was Mane is someone who is probably quite an easy swap for a lot of people as well, who I think he's flying a bit under the radar, really, because you can move Salah to Mane. It gives you the option to go back to Salah quite easily in a few weeks if you want to. But then you've got that player in place for the Brighton game, particularly in the Fulham game in 12. So I have briefly considered doing that, but the lure of Fernandes and De Bruyne is too strong, I think.
Yeah, like Mane is one of the best replacements, but it just doesn't seem right. It's almost like I'm taking Salah out. So I want to do something a little bit different. Just getting the other Liverpool midfielder in doesn't seem like the right move, especially when their fixtures turn. I'm going to want Salah back anyway, I think, rather than the Mane. So I know what you're saying. Like that is probably the better move, or probably as good as the other moves. But I don't know. For me, it just. So which way are you leaning? Because you've not got any Man United players, West Brom, and obviously Man City from game week 10 onwards. Fixtures are really good, and to be fair, they're playing Spurs this weekend, which probably isn't the end of the world from either. So you're leaning towards De Bruyne or Fernandes for your move in?
It's really difficult, and I think if De Bruyne had the easy game now and Fernandes had them in the future, it'd be easy because you just go for De Bruyne. It's that West Brom game for Fernandes which just looks so appealing, and I think with De Bruyne, with Fernandes, it depends on whether I'm looking at keeping Fernandes for like the foreseeable future because the fixtures aren't amazing after the West Brom game. Southampton away, West Ham away, Man City at home. I'm not expecting massive things from him in those 3, but you'd expect him to still score quite well. 2 of them are away, and he's been better away from home than he has at home. But then you look at De Bruyne. I mean, he's got Spurs, so he doesn't feel like the kind of necessary pick this week. But then he is. So it's almost like I get Fernandes for this week, and then I think, oh, actually, maybe I should have gone for De Bruyne, and then I'm looking at moving him out straight away. So I don't know whether you just go for the long-term pick, who I know I want for the next 5 weeks in De Bruyne. Because I mean, if you get Fernandes in and he blanks against West Brom, you're going to straight away be feeling a bit twitchy about him, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'll bring up my team. So I've already got Rashford in. So it kind of makes it a little bit different because I feel like I don't necessarily need Fernandes as much. And basically, like you. I know a lot of people are now feeling like he's like a long-term pick, but he isn't for me. Like I don't want him long-term because he doesn't fit in with the rest of my plans. So if I was to bring him in, it would just be for 3 game weeks, and I'd probably get rid of him and Rashford in the same week. So I'm kind of leaning towards just getting De Bruyne in because My plan anyway from game week, at least by game week 11, maybe earlier if I can swing it, is to have De Bruyne and Sterling. Is to have both and just absolutely go for the fixtures. So originally my plan was Kane and Son out for De Bruyne and Watkins. And obviously I was going to keep Salah and Rashford. Rashford looks like he's going to be fine, but Salah probably not. So I could just do Salah to De Bruyne and just roll my other transfer and just play Kane and Son against City. I'm not necessarily happy about it, but I'd still have 2 free transfers next week. Or I could even do Salah to De Bruyne and fix Maupay, which we'll come on to in a minute because we both own him.
Oh, God.
And I could just Watkins and then... yeah, do the moves later on, but I don't know. I kind of want to do 3 moves this week. I want to take a hit. So another thing I've considered is Salah and Son out for De Bruyne and Fernandes. So I'd have Fernandes and Rashford for West Brom, and then later on I fix that and get Sterling and De Bruyne. I get Sterling in, but I don't know. It just feels like I'm adding extra transfers. So I'm pretty tempted just to go straight to De Bruyne. But I will say it's a lot easier for me because. I've already got Rashford.
Yeah, because you've got the Rashford badge. Yeah, I mean, if I could afford Salah and Son to Fernandes and De Bruyne, I'd do it even for a hit. I think this week, just get it done. Because I know that I don't want, I definitely don't want both Son and Kane long term, and I know that I do want De Bruyne and I want Fernandes for this game. So if I had the money to do it, I probably would just do that straight away. I think in your position, I would, if you're looking at getting Sterling. Fernandes doesn't really seem to fit that strategy, so it does almost feel like a bit of a either or. Yeah, but you're going to have to take quite a few extra transfers to be able to.
Yeah, so I've got 2. I've got 2 free transfers now, so I'd have to do Salah and Son to De Bruyne and Fernandes now, which would leave me with Rashford, Fernandes, De Bruyne. But I'd have to fund that this week, so I'd have to take a -4 because I got 2 free transfers, so I could just take a -4, and that would probably have to be Reguilon down to 5.1 or even like Kane to Vardy or just do the Kane to Watkins move now and just bank a load of money, and then next week probably do my Reguilon to Cancelo move, but then it gives me, not only do I have to take a hit this week to do that, I have to take an extra hit in game week 11 to get Sterling in. I can't even think about who I'd have to get rid of Rashford for. Oh yeah, of course, to get Salah back. So yeah, it's an extra hit down the line potentially. Yeah. So I'm tempted just to not do that and play boring essentially. Just get De Bruyne in now for Salah and roll, or just, I don't know, maybe do one of the other moves like Kane to Watkins. But it doesn't feel right to get rid of Kane when I don't need the money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, I mean the big one though, and you mentioned him briefly, is the player who I'm putting in the same category as De Bruyne and Fernandes is definitely Vardy, because I'm looking at ways to get him in, for the 3 games they've got. Because I don't think it gets much better for Vardy than Fulham, Sheffield United, and Brighton at the moment. I know Brighton are looking good at least in the defensive stats, but
have you looked at them, by the way? Have you actually looked at them? It's ridiculous.
What, our stats?
Yeah. Like in the last, don't get me wrong, last 4 games for Brighton have been pretty good, but they've only conceded 12 shots in the box in the last 4 games. No. That's better than any other team in the league. It's absolutely insane.
But we look like conceding every time. I know. Every time people go forward, I just don't get it. It's crazy.
Least amount of shots conceded this whole season, like less than Man City, etc. And they've played a game extra. Like. I don't know. I feel like you're the Brighton fan, right? You tell me. Have they just got mistakes in them, or is it just variance which 100%. Happens and they're going to get clean sheets soon?
Just mistakes. We just do stupid things. We're in control. We give the ball away in the middle. Players go through on goal. We're not that great from set pieces. We concede too much. We do concede chances from there. Like it seems like players again just only need one chance to score. And they take it because we present them with such good opportunities that they just take them. And that's not just this season. That happened all of last season when we were on top. I keep saying it. There's a psychological thing with Brighton. It's almost like me when I play tennis. I'm much worse at playing tennis when I'm winning. There's just something in my mind which is like, well, this is all going to fall apart, and it normally does.
So negative.
And I reckon Brighton have got that exact mentality. Yeah, it is negative. It's not good. It's not a winning mentality. It's an anxious mentality, and I think Brighton have got it because they're so quick to fall apart when things haven't quite gone their way, even when they're on top.
So yeah, I was just when we were chatting there, I was just reminding myself why we were talking about Brighton. Then I remembered it was Jamie Vardy. So are you thinking about getting him in?
Definitely.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm definitely
100%.
getting him in. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely doing Kane to Vardy next week.
Okay, well, okay.
You know,
I've got your team up on screen there. Walk me through your transfers for this week, and then where does Vardy come into it?
okay. So this week it's going to be Salah to either De Bruyne or Fernandes. I think it's probably going to be Fernandes this week, and I'll probably captain him as well. And then it would be Kane and Son to De Bruyne and Vardy next week.
Okay, so you got a bit of money in the bank. Oh, of
I've got a
course.
bit.
Sorry, you'd have loads. No, sorry, you'd have loads from Salah to Fernandes, wouldn't you? You'd have 2 odd million. So yeah, you'd easily be able to do that.
Let me just check I can afford it before I look a right mug. Yeah, easy. Yeah, so so be a hit next week. Getting rid of my two, because I mean the two Spurs players are playing Chelsea. So Chelsea are, I know Thiago Silva's not playing this week, but he's going to be back for that game. I can't see them conceding bucket loads of goals to Spurs. I think that's going to be quite a tight game. Whereas Vardy's got Fulham at home, and De Bruyne's got Burnley. So, I mean, there's so much potential for those two players.
Are you worried about getting rid of Spurs players? Is there any worry?
There is worry. There's worry because they're so highly owned. But I'm not going to base my transfers on how highly owned a player is. That's not how I like to play it. I think they're still going to. I don't think Spurs are going to score no goals in the next sort of 6 games. I don't think they're going to score 4 or 5 goals in the next 6 games, and I think Leicester and Man City could. So if I'm thinking about potential, I'm looking at those two teams and thinking they've got much higher potential to get massive returns, which I need at the moment because I'm not doing well. Not like you, Mr. 100k. I'm, way down. I can only dream of being in the top 100k. I'm 1.4 million or whatever it is. So I need to think of ways to differentiate myself, and that this does seem the time to do it. And a Kane goal will hurt, a Son goal will hurt, but I've got to hope that the players I bring in, better what they're doing, and I think they can.
Yeah, look, basically exactly what Late Riser said on Twitter. None of us are. I mean, I've said this on stream as well. Nobody is getting rid of Kane and Son thinking they're never going to score again, right? They absolutely will. If Spurs score, like if I look at the score sheet and it says Spurs have won 1-0 or 2-0, my first thought is how many of those goals was Son and Kane? Probably all of them, right?
Yeah.
So we know they're going to score, but you're betting on other players and other fixtures. Like surely no one is thinking that Man City are just going to keep playing like they have for the rest of the season. It could be a mistake, but I've said it a million times. Like Burnley, Fulham, West Brom in 4 fixtures, you bet on that for pretty much any team, let alone for Man City. So I'm kind of the same. Kane does worry me slightly because his numbers are so good this season. They're like on a par with Salah, and it's very rare that I ever think about getting rid of Salah when he's fit. Sorry. And obviously Kane's a little bit cheaper, but I'm just not going to captain them at all over these fixtures, which doesn't necessarily matter. Like I don't buy into the, that if they're expensive and you're not captain and they're not worth owning. I don't necessarily agree with that because Kane's the same price as Fernandes, right? And apart from this week, I wouldn't consider captaining him either, but I'd happily hold him. So I do worry a little bit about getting rid of Kane, but I'm the same as you. I've looked at ownership for videos purposes, like looking at differentials or whatever. But I haven't really checked it this year. Like I know roughly which players are high owned and which ones aren't. Like that just is natural because you see templates and you see people's teams all the time. But I couldn't care less how owned they are, like versus De Bruyne and stuff. So I'm the same.
Hit 60% at one point.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? 60%. Like
absolutely.
I don't remember. Like even Salah, like at his absolute best, I don't remember him being. I don't even know if he got to 60, let alone much higher than that. So it's insane. I just wonder if there's obviously a massive amount. I wonder if there's more active players this year that at this point in the season there maybe has been before. Because I know everyone says, there's an extra million teams. They're not all going to be active. But the percentage of teams must stay roughly the same. So there is always more active managers, so maybe that's why. But yes.
I mean, have we ever seen? I mean, I think there was such a buzz around Spurs in general with Bale coming in, and then they win that game 5-2, the second game of the season. Son gets 24 points, and then gets blanks against Newcastle. Then goes on a run of 18, 13, 11. It's like you're looking at if people are just coming on and looking at points. I mean, him and Kane are just so far ahead of everyone else.
And it does get to the point as well,
without thinking.
Yeah, and I think even like you were like that, and I was too. It gets to the point where you keep scoring that many points, you can't ignore them, no matter whether you think the stats are looking weird or the fixtures might be difficult. I mean, in Spurs' case, they weren't; they were really good. But yeah, it does get to the point where you just like you can't ignore 24 points, 18 points, 13 points. It just gets a bit stupid, but. You do bank eventually, or bet eventually that it will slow down. And Man City, Chelsea, surely they're going to slow down in those two games. I mean, they've already slowed down the last few games.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Salah. I mean, you look at, Salah has a rough run of games, and I still expect, a Klopp team to score goals in any match they've got. But I just wonder about Spurs. We haven't seen. I mean, almost their most challenging game this season was Everton, and they lost that 1-0 in the first game of the season. They've had United. Okay, that I just think that was a complete anomaly, that game. And then some easy games which they haven't looked amazing in. I mean, since the West Ham came back to 3-3, they've been pretty uninspiring, I'd say. Brighton, we should have beaten them. They weren't that good against West Brom, for example.
Burnley deserved more as well.
Comfortably. Burnley deserved more. That's it. So, it's almost a bit like Mourinho has sacrificed a bit of attacking maybe to try and grind out some clean sheets or keep the scores down a bit, because there's just free scoring, but they're still letting in too many goals. Maybe he's looking at this run of fixtures and thinking, okay, we need to tighten up a bit. We need to make sure we're getting some results here, not worrying about scoring 5 or 6 goals a game. So I do think Kane and Son are going to carry on scoring, but double digits are going to be rarer for them surely over the next few. Whereas Vardy, Fernandes, De Bruyne, I think the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement. I've been talking about it, like a lot of people have been talking about it for weeks. I just think I tried this season not to overthink fixtures too much. And if it was like Man City and then West Brom and then Chelsea and then Leicester or something, that'd be a bit different, because then it's 2 and 4 and not bad. But having Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man City in the next 5 is just so hard. And I'm thinking about double City midfielder. You got any interest in that?
I don't blame anyone for doing it. I just think it doesn't really fit in with my kind of strategy, because I want Vardy, and because Sterling is that little bit more expensive than Fernandes. It would be a lot harder for me to do that. I'd probably have to not go for Vardy and go for the double up. So I definitely want Vardy in. So that kind of limits me a bit. I mean, City in general haven't looked great. Sterling, I thought, probably had his best game against Sheffield United and didn't get anything in that. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does. I mean, they've got options. I mean, I think Jesus is back. Aguero's back training maybe. Ferran Torres got a hat-trick against Germany. Foden obviously really good in playing for England. And I don't know. I just wonder. I want to see them settled and scoring lots of goals before I really go in hard on them. I'm happy to get. I think if you grab Sterling or De Bruyne, you're pretty set, and it's not really a risk, but it feels sensible. Whereas the double up, I don't know, it still feels a little bit more risky.
Yeah, I think basically it's exactly what you said. I can maybe do it I can do it if I don't get Vardy. He is the kicker for me. So I'm still weighing up whether or not to get him, because I think like game week 10, Fulham at home, potential captain option there, especially if Salah's out. Otherwise it's De Bruyne against Burnley, which isn't the end of the world, I guess. But yeah, we'll see. What about? I'm just looking at some of the questions that are coming up in chat. What about Man City defence, particularly Cancelo? Are you thinking about getting him, or do you think it's just too risky to get a fullback from Man City?
Not really. I mean, I think no defender. I said it on the Scout Cards the other day. No defenders creating chances quicker than Cancelo, so he's ahead of Robertson, Trent, Chilwell, all of them. He is statistically the best, the most likely defender to come up with some clean sheets with what looks like the best fixtures kind of imaginable. His main competition is Mendy, who I struggle to really see as competition just because of his fitness record. I just can't imagine him starting consecutive games like anywhere near in the near future. He's just so injury prone. I mean, Zinchenko's there, but he's played 12 minutes this season. And Cancelo, I think, has been one of City's best players sort of all year. So I don't think there is that much risk with him starting. I mean, no more than I think there is with other defenders. So yeah, he'd be the one to go for. I did like the look of Ruben Diaz at 5.5 because I was thinking at least you definitely get that security with him. But I think Cancelo's done enough, 4 consecutive starts in the league. I think he's done enough now to go for him over Diaz.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's just it's always in the back of mind, like you said, it's Pep Guardiola. So yeah, I don't know if I could be 100% confident, but I think their back line has looked good. I think it's quite settled at the moment, which is unusual, right? Walker's playing pretty much every game. Cancelo, since he's come in, has played every game, I think, as well. And like you said, since him and Chilwell, or since Chilwell started in Game Week 4, they've created the same amount of chances, but Cancelo's played a game less, so he is, like you said, creating quicker. So yeah, I really like him. I see in the chat, I like Laporte for a bit extra. I don't know if I mean, Laporte is about as safe as it gets in that back line, but I don't know. I think he's 6 million, isn't he? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'd be looking at him. So yeah, I like Cancelo too. He's fully in my plans. I'm probably going to get him. I have toyed with the idea of getting a Man United defender instead. Like Telles is so tempting because his delivery is so good. Like obviously it was just one match, that PSG match, but the fact that he came straight in and took set pieces off Fernandes just shows how good he is. They're brilliant.
They're going to cause destruction, I think. So quick. So just bullets, aren't they?
Yeah, and the curve as well. The problem I have is I don't necessarily need to bring in a defender this week. And if you're going to get a Man United defender, I feel like you want them for West Brom at home. Whereas in a few weeks, Matt, like we just talked about, Man City's fixtures are so good. It's got to be head over heart, I think, for me. But I do like Telles, and I think if he keeps his place, we'll be talking about him more and more because I fully expect Man United to be right up there when it comes to clean sheets. Just really quickly,
does it dent Fernandes an option if he seeks some of his clean sheets? Won't take his clean sheets. Might take his set pieces though.
Yeah,
does it make him less good?
Maybe a little bit. Although I'm trying to think now about. I don't know off the top of my head how many set piece assists he actually has. Because I don't really remember. I mean, there's been a couple for Maguire off corners, I think, but I don't think a huge amount of his points have come from set pieces outside of penalties, obviously. So I don't know if it dents him.
I remember him scoring a free kick last year when I had him. That was nice.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it does dent his appeal a little bit. I just don't know if it massively dents it. I mean, talking about Man United, someone just asked. Do you think they're a trap? Well, I won't answer this. Because all this home and away form stuff, like I put on Twitter earlier, the last 3 home games have been Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea. So we should have done better, but they're not exactly easy fixtures. Like it's West Brom. Surely we're not worried about West Brom, or are you?
No. No, I don't think so. I mean, they're playing better. Everyone thought Spurs would turn them over, and it wasn't like that at all. They defended well. I think United have got a lot more creativity than Spurs have. That's the thing that's the thing that I just can't seem to really get past with Spurs is that without Eriksen there and without Ali, and with Lo Celso playing kind of sporadically, every match I look at their lineup and I think who's going to create the goals for them? And I guess it's similar to Liverpool in the sense that the front three are good at finding their way through and creating goals, but I look at United against West Brom, and I think Fernandes is perfect to really unlock that defence. If West Brom do go there to defend, which they're probably going to have to, I think it's going to be on Fernandes' shoulders to get to set things up and to create and for them to unlock the defence. So I think it's a perfect game for him, really.
Yeah,
surely they beat West Brom comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, people have been sending me this. As soon as I put that tweet out, obviously I was asking for trouble. A few people reminded me about our results versus West Ham over the last 5 or 6 years, but I just don't care about that. Like, it's this season. It's a different season. It's a different team, different managers. And I'm not saying we're going to go and absolutely smash them like 5-6-0, but I just think if you look, I mean, the Crystal Palace game is a little bit of an anomaly maybe. Like, we really didn't do well in that game, first game of the season. But since then, the easier fixtures, we scored good few goals. Like, Everton was 3 goals, Brighton was 3 goals, albeit maybe a little bit dodgy there.
Don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't.
We won't go back there, but I think ultimately they're good picks this week. I just don't buy this home and away thing. It's West Brom and it shouldn't be a huge issue. And I actually quite like I like the fact that they're now going Fred and McTominay, and it looks quite defensive. And don't get me wrong, Fred is not Pogba when it comes to passing, but he can thread a ball through to like Fernandes in between the lines. Like one of the goals, I think it was the goal where Rashford nearly got his head on it. That was a ball from Fred into Fernandes on the edge of the box. He then, into Rashford and then out to Fernandes. So Fred does have that in his locker. So it's not just about defensive with them. Maybe they'll play Pogba or Van der Beek instead. They should do that against a team like West Brom, but. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I wouldn't see that as a trap. All right, let me see. I'll just do a couple of the super chats that have come in. These like A and B questions. Salah and Son for De Bruyne and Ziyech, or Salah and Kane to KDB or Ziyech and Vardy. Okay, that's going to be too confusing for you because you can't read it. But Salah and so basically get rid of Son or Kane. So it's basically Ziyech versus Vardy essentially. Would you get rid of Son to get Ziyech, or would you get rid of Kane to get Vardy this week for free?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I'm very happy having Ziyech in my team. He was someone who I wanted right from the start, but obviously got that injury, so it's ended up with me, like you said a few weeks ago, ended up like ping-ponging around all the different Chelsea players, like Havertz and Pulisic. And
you've owned them all at this point, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had them, and Werner as well. Yeah, I've had the whole lot. The only one I haven't had is Mason Mount, so Southgate won't be happy with me. But yeah, I'm happy with where I've ended up. I think Ziyech is the strongest option of the whole lot of them. I mean, you've got Werner, moving over to the left. Chelsea have been transformed since Abraham's been playing, so I'd expect Werner to carry on the left with Werner. It'd be interesting to see where Pulisic comes in, but he's not fit yet. Anyway, so the left side is just a bit of a mess in terms of fantasy appeal because you never know who's going to be playing where or what's going to be happening. So the right hand side is completely free. So I just think that makes Ziyech such a strong option. And at 8.3 million, or whatever he is, he's a great price as well. So I really, really like Ziyech. If I was going to be getting one now, though, I still think I'd prioritise Vardy, just because of those three games.
I'm just thinking about it though.
Fulham, Sheffield United, and Brighton, so good.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it. Surely I only just clocked this, but surely you go Salah and Son to De Bruyne and Ziyech, and then you do Kane to Vardy for the Fulham game, not for the Liverpool game. Job done. So I mean, sure, I think that's the play. I think if you really want Ziyech, you just do it this week while he's playing Newcastle, because Chelsea's fixtures are not the best. They're okay. They're not awful, but this is the fixture to have him in for. Yeah. And he has looked pretty incredible, I must say, over the last couple of games. I still wonder, I think he's a bit like James Rodriguez. Like, he's going to be the one assisting, not necessarily getting the goals, albeit, obviously, Rodriguez had a couple of big hauls, but Ziyech's got two.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he does as well as Rodriguez, I'll take that.
I'm actually like a bit gutted. I got rid of him for the right reasons, but I'm a little bit gutted I don't own him for this week. So I think he could do really well. One other thing here, I mean, we've kind of talked about Salah already quite a lot, but it's like Salah to Bruno for a -4, or would you bench and play Dallas? So I guess there you're betting on whether he's going to miss more than one game.
An easy one.
You take the -4, wouldn't you?
100%.
Especially if you're going to captain.
Come on. Yeah, come on. I think, at the end of it all, I think, it's still the enjoyment factor that has to come into this game, and the potential factor as well. I mean, if you're asking me, would I want 4 points and Dallas or Bruno Fernandes in a 1 week match, I'm taking Fernandes every day. So yeah, and I mean, and I mean, I don't know what the situation is, but probably likely to captain Fernandes as well, which I think makes it even more appealing. So yeah, I'd definitely be doing that. I mean, Leeds defensively as well. I'm not sold on. I really liked watching Ayling play. I've got him in my team, and Dallas as well. I know Dallas scored the week before last. So I think Dallas probably is the better pick out of both of them. But defensively, Leeds are just not reliable. I mean, they conceded the most goals in the league. So
yeah, I mean, I must admit, I have to play Dallas this week. Although with Mitchell, I might risk and play Mitchell and hope that he gets his place back. I really don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. But I'm probably going to have to play Dallas this week. And I mean, Arsenal's attack is pretty blunt at the moment, but like it just feels like once one goes in against Leeds, they just don't change their play whatsoever. I mean, obviously Seb was talking about it a lot on Scoutcast, and if it goes wrong, it really goes wrong for him. because it feels like they've only got one way of playing. I'm sure Bielsa could play a different way, but he doesn't want to. So yeah, it's an annoying one. We will come on to Maupay in a minute because we both own him. I've given my thoughts on him a lot.
We have to.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah, but one more. So this is more. So this question's come in. Transferred Richarlison on a wild card. What about Richarlison as a captain? Like this week, obviously, you said about Bruno Fernandes, but there are a lot of options this week. Like people are looking at Grealish. Richarlison's obviously come up there. Would you be looking at anyone like that? Do you think Richarlison's a good bet?
Yeah, I mean, Calvert-Lewin is who I've got my captain on at the moment. So if the news had come in that Salah was only going to be out for 1 week, sort of definitely he'd flown back to England. He's going to miss the Leicester game, but he's back in training. Salah would probably be staying, and Calvert-Lewin would be my captain going into this. So I think Calvert-Lewin is a great option just because he keeps scoring every week. His confidence is so high, and he's playing. Well, they're not the worst defense because Leeds are the worst defense, but they're right up there. So. Yeah, I mean, Richarlison, he's got penalties, and Everton in general are just so much better when Richarlison plays. So the reason they've struggled so much lately has been because they haven't had Dean, they haven't had Rodriguez, they haven't had Richarlison. Their team's just been a bit decimated. So you'd think now they've got everyone back. It's the perfect game, really, for them to show that, it wasn't just a kind of early season blip and, they're actually crap like they normally are. They are a decent team. So I think it's really important for them to get, I'd say it's important for them to get quite a big win against Fulham. So, yeah, the captaincies, I'd go for Calvert-Lewin over Richarlison if I was going to pick one, just because of the consistency. But I do like the idea of bringing in Richarlison alongside him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you think that's a good fixture for Everton, then Richarlison captain has got to be pretty much on a par with Calvert-Lewin because the numbers are pretty similar. Like if you look overnight, obviously for the whole season it's not quite the same because Calvert-Lewin's played more minutes, but per 90, Richarlison's right up there. So if you want to captain someone in that game, I mean, most people are going to go Calvert-Lewin because that's who they own. But if you're going for Richarlison, I think he's perfectly fine. What do you think about like Grealish captain's coming up quite a lot now? I mean, I can't sit here and say he's done poorly this season because he absolutely hasn't. 10 returns already. He's been absolutely insane. Obviously, playing your boys, we already spoke about Brighton earlier. The fact that they're barely conceding shots. Do you think he's a genuine captain this week? Do you think he's like up there with the Fernandezes, the Bruynes, players like that?
No, I don't think he is because I mean, I think it's quite nice to sit and work out what you think is going to happen in kind of the games, and I think. I'm looking at the two fixtures. I think are the standouts are definitely United v West Brom. Because I think United do have the potential to score 3 or 4 goals in that game, and I think at the Everton Fulham game as well. I think that they're the games which I'd earmark as having the most goals in them. I look at Brighton Villa, and I think that could be more low scoring. I mean Grealish. It's hard to sort of go against Grealish just because of the form he's in and everything he can do and. The fact Villa was so good against Arsenal, they were so poor against Southampton, somehow got 3 goals in kind of the last 10 minutes, and Grealish ends up with 15 points. So I think Grealish is I think he's a great player to have in your team, but I mean, he hasn't got penalties. I don't think he's up there at the moment with Fernandes, and I think because Everton have got that Fulham game, you really play. You're playing the fixture. You're playing the fixture with that. So, no, not for me. I'm not really feeling it. I don't think Grealish is going to get a monster haul against us.
I basically think the same. It feels wrong to bet against Grealish for all the reasons you said. I think he's like 6th with shots in the boxes so far this season as well. So
yeah,
like last year,
are unbelievable.
They are. It's like 19 shots in the box, 19 chances created already. So it is a bit ridiculous to sit here and say he's not up there. But for me, he's not up there either. Like I would have Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Mane, Fernandes, Rashford, Werner probably as well. All ahead of Grealish this week, I think. I don't like. Again, I like him in my team as a squad player. And obviously he can do it. Like there's people captaining him a couple of weeks ago against Southampton, 15-pointer, happy days. But he's gonna not do that more often than he does. So. I don't think it's
because it's Villa, isn't it? It's Villa, isn't it? I mean, with your Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton, everyone's if Fulham beat Everton, it's a shock. If Newcastle beat Chelsea, it's a shock. If West Brom beat United, it's a massive shock. But if Brighton beat Villa 1-0, it's not that you wouldn't be that surprised.
Well,
they're not. Villa aren't suddenly top 4 Champions League
they've
chasing
had
teams.
Second most shots in the box last 4 games. Second most, and they've played Leicester.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
They're a very good. They're a very very good side, but they're just not. I think it's too early to really put him in that. I mean, the thing is though, this is why fantasy football is such a fun game to play. Because I mean, I'm sure a couple of seasons ago when Leicester won the league, everyone's saying, "Oh, Mahrez isn't the captain option." Vardy isn't the captain option.
Yeah,
but
and that was one of my worst seasons.
And went with. Yeah, exactly. The people that were brave and did that ended up going really high up the rankings. So, it's one of those ones where we can sit here and say we both agree that we probably wouldn't put them up there, but that doesn't mean if you think Villa can't push on, you shouldn't go for it. But yeah, for me, I just think there's better options.
Yeah, I think if you think they're going to score like 2, 3, 4 goals, maybe then perhaps you do go for him because he's going to be involved. But I agree. I'm not really a big fan of him as a captain. I will say this is going to throw a bit of a spanner in the works, right? And you're going to have to react to this live because it's only just been announced. So the Egyptian, I'll read this out. It's about Salah. The Egyptian FA has announced that Mo Salah and El Neni will both travel back to London tomorrow. In a prepared plane. Both players and clubs hope that their swabs turn negative ASAP so they can get back to playing again sooner. So, yeah, I mean, so what if he comes back tomorrow and it goes negative? Potentially, I guess that means they could play this weekend. It seems unlikely because they've not trained. But, I mean, that does probably... Before I was starting to swing towards the fact he was going to miss game week 10. But now maybe I see that and I'm thinking, well, what if he lands tomorrow and it's negative?
But it doesn't really change anything because he would have had the test anyway. So tomorrow he could have been in Egypt and got a negative test, and we would have thought he'd be back over the weekend and played. I don't think it really changes things that much. I think I just think I think it would be a big ask for him to fly back tomorrow after having all of this coronavirus stuff going on and be back starting against Brighton the week after. I just think that's a really quick turnaround for something like this to suddenly.
But he had no symptoms, right? I mean,
he's had mild. Well, they've said he's had mild symptoms.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's hard to know, one, what that actually means, and two, how it might affect him long term. Because, he's a very fit footballer, so it's a little bit different to me. But it was a bit of a killer when I was down with it early on. So yeah, I'm sure. Salah's not the same as me, right? He's very, very fit, like I say, so I'm sure he's fine. But
you're doing a lot of miles these days.
I mean, has Salah walked 190 kilometers in the last 19 days? I bet he hasn't. He might have ran them, but
exactly.
So I don't know if that changes a huge amount, but what it does kind of make maybe a little bit more interesting, I suppose. And look, no one, if you've got Salah now, you're not taking him out until you've heard the press conference anyway. But if they're going to be back in the UK, I feel like that's going to prompt Liverpool to say something. Like, Klopp is going to have to answer this question in the press conference. They've been so quiet on it. So I guess, what if he says there's a chance for Brighton? Would that change it, or are you kind of decide now he's out?
I think if he says there's a chance for Brighton, I think that would push me to De Bruyne. I think I'd still sell him, but I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think if I went for Fernandes, it would mean an extra transfer because I'd have to get Fernandes in and then get De Bruyne in. Whereas if I went straight for De Bruyne, then I've got that transfer, which I, in theory, save for Salah at some point down the line, probably after the Wolves game. So that would maybe give me a bit of a less headache, further down. But no, I think I would still sell him. Just because saying he's got a chance to be ready. I mean, they always say that. I just think the way I see it is there's just, I don't like that much uncertainty with a 12 million player when there's other players I want. So yeah, I think I would still sell. I'd feel less comfortable about it. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I probably would still do it.
I'm just wondering what's the worst thing Klopp could say in his press conference. I mean, probably just that yeah, he's out this weekend, but there's a good chance he's back next week. I mean, a good chance is always annoying because, I mean, look at Lampard and Pulisic, etc. early on. That was constantly he's available and now he's not, and then he's going to be back, and that was a nightmare. This is obviously a bit of a different situation because it's not an injury, but Yeah, okay. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. See what comes out.
Yep.
Let's talk about Maupay really quickly, even though no one's asking about it, just because we both own him. I feel like a little bit hard done by because he's basically scored the same amount of points as Adams this year, and everyone's raving about Adams. It just so happens that Adams done it in the last 4, and so Maupay looks like he's off form a little bit, and like, he wasn't very good in the last game. Do you think he can still come good, or is he just done?
God, I mean, it's such a hard question to answer. I mean, last season he was all right. He got 10 goals. I never went near him because I always felt that he was capable of going on a bit of a run of poor form. I didn't see it happening this season just because he started off really strongly. Brighton looked really good. And I thought, if anything, we're going to start converting some of these chances. And he could be one of the best budget strikers in the whole game. And it just hasn't happened. I mean, the West Brom game, and the Palace game, he missed, quite easy chances. The massive row with someone and got booted out of the team completely. And then against Burnley, he kind of almost gets shifted out wide left to accommodate Welbeck and with Trossard out. So, I mean, the signs aren't good. He's not a striker in confidence. And you've got players like Bamford and Watkins who are. And it's always better to have a striker who's playing with bags of confidence because it just feels like everything they do comes off. I mean, look at Bamford and that little chip he did in the last game. Would Bamford, who was struggling, have been able to pull that off? When people are criticising him and saying that he's not a Premiership striker and all that, I don't think so. So Maupay he's such a random player. Like the goal he scored against Everton was great. Pickford sort of fumbled it and Maupay was straight in, nicked it and scored. It looked really sharp. But then the next game he's missing easy chances. So I am half tempted just to bite the bullet, take a -4 and dump him for Watkins or Bamford and just look at that as something completely separate to everything else that I'm doing, just to get rid of him. Really, I'm honestly not happy owning him at all.
Do you worry about, like, in that kind of slot though? Like, he's not taking up a 10 or a 12 million pound slot. He's just taking up a 6.5. I mean, 6.4 now, which is even more annoying. But it's really gone wrong, that move, because I basically that week I moved early because of price changes. I got rid of Adams, who then went on to score got points every game week since. And I got Maupay in, and he's dropped in price anyway now. So I've lost that 0.1 million, which I would have got back for Adams because I think he went back up in price again. So that just goes to show you that sometimes chasing prices is not the be all and end all. But I didn't think Maupay was just going to suddenly do nothing for 4 games. But
no, nor did I. I thought we got him around the same time, didn't we? Both thought it was
exactly the same week, I think. Yeah. I think for me, like, it's just like it's a 6.5 million slot. It's not where I'm expecting most of my points to come from anyway. And like, I just feel like I've got bigger fish to fry. Like, if I bring my team up, like, I mean, Maupay's just not against Aston Villa with Southampton at home to come up very soon as well. It's just, and I've got Salah sat there with a red flag. It's just not where, not where I'm thinking of going, to be honest.
I think that's why I'm trying to look at it over a period of weeks. So if I'm looking at Maupay versus Adams, Bamford, and Watkins, do I think Maupay can match those strikers over the next 4 weeks for 4 points? Because I'm not going to use a free transfer to do it and then not do my other moves. It's going to be something that's done completely in conjunction with it. So I know you can look at it as like a -8 or -12 building up, but really it's whatever I do is regardless. It's a -4 of Maupay to someone else. And if that player outscores Maupay by 4 points, then I've done well. I've made the right move. And I think really Maupay is at the bottom. Is at the bottom of all of them. I think I think Watkins and Bamford. I think Bamford in particular, just because of how attacking Leeds seem to be, and if they are struggling at the back, there is more emphasis on the striker to score, and the form is in. I mean, I know I mentioned it a second ago, but when I saw him score, I mean, he scored that goal where he pointed and they gave him offside, which absolutely ridiculous, but that's another thing. A great finish. And then to still recover from that and score another brilliant goal on top of it. I mean, it's a striker just absolutely oozing confidence for the same price as Maupay, he doesn't tick any boxes in terms of what I want. So yeah, I am half tempted just to do Maupay to Bamford and just get it done. I think if you've got Maupay, I just can't endorse him. he's just rubbish at the moment. I'm sorry, I can't.
It's almost like I'm not being stubborn. Like if I had a free transfer this week and Salah's fit, Rashford's fit, I've already got rid of Kane, Son, I would definitely get rid of him for Watkins probably or Bamford, like you said. But then I just look at the fixtures. Think Villa, Southampton, Fulham in the next 5. Maybe I'm getting sucked in by the fixtures a little bit, but is he going to go another 5 games without scoring? Because I guess for a lot of players, like, I can't worry about the 4 games that have just gone. I can't get those points back. I mean, he obviously missed one as well, so it's actually only 3 games. I've got to wipe that now and just say for the next 4 or 5, could he do okay? Hopefully, it's clutching at straws a bit, but
there's some question marks about whether he even carries on playing, because with Welbeck signing, suddenly we have got Welbeck there, we have got Connolly there as well. Trossard can play up front too. And he has already had the falling out.
I don't want to live in a world where Welbeck is coming in and he's taking the place of Maupay. Like, Maupay's not that bad. Come on, like Welbeck. I mean, I like Welbeck, but come on, surely.
You asked my dad. My dad is absolute sort of diehard Brighton fan. He's very passionate about which players he likes and which players he doesn't like. He absolutely detests Maupay. With every fibre of his being, he thinks he doesn't like the kind of this. I like Maupay for his like arrogance and taking that penalty and shushing the crowd and saying that Arsenal lacked humility. Well, I think it's like it's fun. It's you've got a striker like that and you think, oh yeah, he's a bit of a he's a bit of a deviant. But yeah, my dad hates that and hates Maupay in general because doesn't think he brings enough to the team. So if you've got him, I'd probably just listen to my dad, to be honest. He tends to be right about these things.
There you go. Get rid. I'm keeping for a little bit. I'll just see if there's any questions we've not already been through, because we've been through a bunch of topics now. 3-5-2 looks like the structure to go to. I mean, we're both on 3-4-3. Have you got any plans to move to 3-5-2 at all?
Yeah, I have. I've been toying with the idea because I think that's when I'm looking at getting Salah, Fernandes, and De Bruyne in. And then I'd have Ziyech and Grealish. I think that to me is probably the best midfield you can have. Obviously, there's a lot of money in it, so it would mean taking some money out of the strike force. The trouble is, I really like Souček as a. I'm not buying into him as a fourth mid. I still think
no way. No way.
I was pretty upset when he scored that goal, to be honest, because he's on my bench last week and he'd been pretty quiet for that game, and then he crops up with that goal. But I'm really happy having him as a first sub any week, because you never really know when you need him, and for the 5 million or less mark, he's definitely the best option, I think, in the whole game out of the midfielders and strikers. I mean, if you're switching to 3-5-2, you're pretty much going for Brewster, right? Who is if he gets a goal, it's going to be a miracle at the moment. So yeah, I mean, I'd much rather have Souček over Brewster. So there is that. But yeah, I do think that if I was on a wild card, the midfield I'd be going for would be Salah or Mane, probably Mane with this news, Ziyech, Grealish, Fernandes, and De Bruyne.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I always like 3-5-2, but I think you're right. Like, there's a lot of hope on Brewster, a guy that's like never. I don't think he's ever played a Premier League game before he went to Sheffield United. So there's a lot of hope about him. Like, I'm sure he'll come good eventually and be an okay for. Like, he's fine as a bench fodder, right? He is going to play, so no issues there. But for me, like, it means, as always, when you make that switch to 3-5-2, it's always two transfers. Sorry. And when I think, like, I'm already thinking about, well, maybe I want Kane back in game week 16. Vardy looks good. Bamford, Watkins, we've already mentioned. Calvert-Lewin's going nowhere from my team just yet. If Calvert-Lewin's got good fixtures, Richarlison also has good fixtures. I still feel like there's quite a few cheap forwards, especially, who are looking good. And Werner is another one as well. Like, Werner, I think, is coming into a little bit of form, even on the left. And he's got penalties now. I still feel like there's a lot of strikers where I might choose to go 3-5-2 if I was on a wild card, but I'm not particularly planning on doing it in the situation that I'm in. I've got 2 free transfers. I could do it. I could do Kane to Brewster and then start thinking about something about my midfield instead. But I mean, ultimately, a lot of the time it comes down to a player like Ziyech versus a cheap forward, like Watkins. That's pretty much the whole discussion. It's Watkins and Souček versus Ziyech and Brewster. I think a lot of people would side with Ziyech, but I also think the price comes into that. I don't get me wrong, Ziyech is great, but I think someone like Watkins has a fairly good chance of getting close to him, maybe not beating him, but I just think penalties, Grealish behind him is pretty good. So I don't think it is as easy to say 3-5-2 is now the best. It's really not. I don't know. It's so close. So close.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think there is a best. I think it's whatever you think is going to work with the players that you want. I mean, I don't think it's not been like previous. I think in previous seasons we have seen a shift to 3-5-2, and it be pretty obvious that you should be putting your money in midfield. We haven't had budget strikers. We've had not many options. I mean, we've got loads of strikers now, which we said at the start of the season that it's rare for us to have this many strikers who we can actually put in our teams and not get laughed at, because in previous seasons it hasn't been like that. So yeah, you could even make the case for having 4 at the back and for 3. I think it's less. I mean, at the start of the season it was really popular with Robertson, Trent, Chilwell, Dean, all these guys. It's probably less popular now, but I think it's still viable if you've got 4 attacking defenders to go that way. So yeah, there's loads of options.
Yeah, I just don't see myself going 4 at the back anytime soon, just because there's so many attackers like that I want, and I just cannot get. I think for me, one of the reasons I'm sticking to 3-4-3 is because I really want Sterling, De Bruyne, Salah, and Grealish, and then to fund 3 heavy hitting midfielders, you need 3 cheap strikers as well. Last thing we'll finish on. Yeah. Because someone asked me about it earlier, and I just kind of thought about it because I was thinking about how good value the cheap strikers are. But there is one player in particular, or maybe 2 if you count Foden, around the same price in midfield. What is your general thoughts on Diogo Jota? Do you think he's a genuine option now, or are you steering clear for now?
I can't work out if he is just like the casual pick for, I'd expect all of my friends who don't really take it very seriously just to go to, and then in a few weeks I'm laughing at them going, oh, as if you remember Jota, he's never going to play. It's always Firmino, Salah, Mane. Or if actually the team is starting to be built around him a bit more. I mean, I was not expecting him and Firmino to start that game against Man City. It was a big curveball. I don't know if that is Klopp's thinking long term to play all 4 of them, or whether it was whether it was done, just purely for that match. It's really tricky. I mean, I said at the start of the season with Foden, he's going to be a frustrating player for a lot of people. I think if you have him, you get him in, and you accept he's going to be benched in one game. He's going to, score in the next game. He's going to be taken off at 60 minutes in the next game. But he'll end up with sort of 160, 170 points, and that's probably quite a good return for a 6 million midfielder. But then he hasn't been starting, so he's been benched the last 3 games, didn't come on at all in the last game. And I think now if you've got him, you've got to really be thinking, do I really want to put up with this? And I think it's probably the same with Jota. I think if you get him, you accept that he probably is going to miss games. He probably is going to get 30 minutes in games, start a game and stuff. If you're happy with that, I mean, if you're not in any head-to-head leagues, it definitely helps. But if you're kind of happy with that and you kind of accept, and you think at the end of the season he's going to end up with 160, 170 points, then yeah, he's a good pick. But it's just not for me. I just don't want that headache going into weeks. It's why I didn't go for Foden. I just don't really want to have to be frantically checking the team sheets every time just to see if he's going to play. Be worried as soon as it gets to 60 minutes. And if Liverpool are ahead, he might be taken off a defender. If they're behind, might be taken off to bring on someone else if he's being ineffective. If I think about Liverpool's first choice 11, he's not in it for me. So why would I want that player in my squad?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's got to the point where Firmino is now second choice. It's just not that at all. And once
he's too important.
Exactly. One of the things for them, I suppose, right now, kind of like a pro for Jota, is they are quite low on central midfielders. So Henderson's probably going to be okay, I would say. Wijnaldum is fine as well, I believe. It's Fabinho, they're still waiting. Kite is there. Milner's probably going to have to play in defence. So they are low on central midfielders, so maybe that's going to give them more emphasis to play 4 up front when they're all fit. But yeah, I agree. I just feel like there's so many good players right now. Why would I get a rotation risk? Even though he could be good. The fixtures coming up are decent. Brighton and
I've been told. Someone just said in the chat that I never say anything concrete. What could be more concrete than he'd probably do all right, but I don't want him, and I don't think you should get him. What more do you want?
People want
your
blood.
Fans, Andy.
Blood from a stone.
They're a nightmare.
That is concrete. Well, yeah, that is concrete. I'm the same. I wouldn't get him. He's just not for me.
I wouldn't get him.
Most people can't cope with that that benching. So yeah, I wouldn't get it. Look, I'd say right now the stream is absolutely lagging out. In fact, I think it might have even completely died. So we'll definitely leave it there. We've been going an hour anyway. I might even re-upload this afterwards. So if you have enjoyed it, please do give it a like, hit subscribe, and say thanks to Az for coming on. Thanks very much.
No problem. Thanks for having me. It was fun. Nice to do it when I couldn't do Black Box with Mark.
Yeah, well, look, I'll go back and put all the links in the description below. So if you want to check out Black Box, just search FPL Black Box as and Mark every single week, apart from when fibre cables get cut. And you can follow Az on Twitter as well. I'll put all the links in the description below. We are both doing Movember. It's not just the case that we both like mustaches. So we're both doing that. So I'll put links to both of them in the description below. And yeah, I'll leave it there because it's absolutely died. So thanks very much, Az. And,
good timing.
Yeah, I'll get you on again sometime.